here we are again. Righto. While I had the car on the hoist, last time I was actually doing all the suspension repairs. I'll show you what I did. Actually, let's torch. Last time I was doing the suspension repairs, like that, here you go. Oh, I should have picked a prettier one, but anyway, you get the picture. They're the little tabs that splay out and make your alignment move. So these are available from Patrol Apart. I thought Andrew Cass had them too, not quite sure. But Patrol Apart had them, tack, 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 just to sort of try and hold it so these don't flare out. So that's the finished result. I think they're all pretty ugly, so I'm not going to show you too many of them, but they do the job. And I'm thinking I only need a couple of tacks. If anything with that one, a couple more tacks in here, maybe. I want to keep an eye on them, see how they go. But from compared to just having that to having that as a backup will be heaps. Right, that all seems to be good. I did update the description of the video on that alignment. The bloke who aligned it said, his words, he said, mate, that's the best I've ever aligned one. It didn't move. When we put it where it was, it just stayed there, which I thought was quite amusing. But anyway, the front, I didn't get, when I ordered the set of tabs, you didn't get enough to do the front, which I thought was amusing because I got even a slight gap there. But it's always the back that goes out on mine. So I thought I'll just leave it, see how it goes. If I need to, I'll put some more tabs in the front, there and there, and there, and there, and there. Yeah, it'll be another 2, 4, 6, 8. Don't mind me, another 8. I'm pretty clever. Right, today's mystery. After all the wheel alignments I had that I talked about last time, I got under the car when I was doing that alignment and I went, and I could move this. Oh, I should still be able to move this. Now, I don't know if you're able to tell, but we'll put that towards. Oh, it's hard to tell. Oh, now you're not able to tell because I've just tightened it up. Right, that was rocking up and down. It was click, 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 and as you did this, it would click, 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 and move. Now, this is what a rack end looks like. Rack ends look like this because I bought a new one from Patrol Apart. 130 bucks, I think, delivered. Now, that's the bit that goes into the rack. So I'll show you in the car. Most of you already know this probably anyway. Probably preaching to the converted. That's what the rack end looks like. So that rack end goes down to your tie rod end. I think this is what they're all called. And that ball joint in there is the end of your tie rod end. So that's tie rod end, I think. And that's the rack end. So that's the bit that bolts onto the rack, and that's the tie rod end. That's the bit that usually goes. And you undo that, easy. Just undo it, get rid of it, too easy. Now, for whatever reason, and this is where you adjust it, like you undo that nut to adjust your steering to get your alignment right. You just undo that nut and wind it around. But I was wiggling this and I went, there's no way, these rack ends last for years. And I went, there's no way that'd be bung already well before that. So, what I did, is that greasable? No grease nipple. No, that suck. Even that one there has grease nipples. That thing, 66 model, has grease nipples. This doesn't, anyway. So, this rack end, I decided that in my head, I thought, this actual rack end must be loose into the actual rack. So, where that thread goes in, I actually got it, went, because I thought that it couldn't be buggered in there, I thought, I reckon that's come loose in the rack. Sure enough, pull the boot off, and that's what the story was. That was actually loose. Now, I've already tightened it, so I'm probably not going to be able to. Oh, here we go. So it was like that. So that was just rocking. Well, you probably can't see it, but anyway, it's enough to annoy me. So that was just loose. So all you do is do that up. That should be tight as. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it all the way out. I'm not going to move any of this. Funny enough, it might be out anyway, the wheel alignment, because it wasn't done up tight. But I'm not going to take any of this off. I'm just going to try and do it in there, wind it out, clean the thread up, put Loctite on it and put it back in. And when I'm putting it back in, I might even get a little tap with a chisel or something just to make sure it's home. But anyway, this wasn't the drama. The drama of all this, when that boot's on, it has a clamp that goes here. There it is there. That clamp goes there. I'll show you this end. This end's easier. Right, you have that. Let's torch it. You have that one there. That clamp. And the other end, you have one of those clamps, like a CV boot clamp. And you use a pair of these to nip it up. Where are those things? Oh, here's a clip here on the ground, on the table. So you basically, there's your clip, and you put these on, and you go squish, and it squishes it up. Now, that's fine, except how the hell do you get in there? Like, to get that one out, I had to put a long nose die grinder, that thing there, up through here, while looking through here, and just gradually die grind it away a bit. I put a screwdriver underneath it so I didn't damage the boot, because there's nothing wrong with the boot. So I'll put that boot back on. Yes, there you go. So that was my annoying little thing for the day on the 62. Now, this car's got 70,000 Ks on it. It's only just out of warranty. So with that in mind, really, should have just taken it back and got them to do it. But I reckon they would unbolt the rack and move the rack over to get to it. You can get to the rack end, no worries at all, by just steering all the way that way, and it pushes it right out here. That's fine. I might do that in a minute. But to get that end, you've got to make up some weird tool, I reckon. Someone might know a bit of way. Like, that's not going to be strong enough from way out here. That won't be strong enough to... So what we need, I reckon, a pair of these, but sort of at 90 degrees. I don't even know if they make them, but anyway. Anyway, when I get it back in there, I'll see how I go, but I don't like my chances, so that might be the only bit that brings me unstuck trying to do it myself. And this is why electricians shouldn't work on cars. But anyway, right now I'm going to undo that. I might steer all the way right first. While I'm under here, let's just have a little bit of sympathy for our steering rack. See, there's the steering rack up there. And when we buy them, they're all set up, and go from the front might be easier. Yeah, and this steering arm sits reasonably horizontal. When we lift them up, it comes down more on that angle. Like you can see, this one's on an angle because it's on full droop because I got it on the hoist. But it comes down to more of an angle. So you imagine this is on full droop, and a couple of the blokes that we wheel with would know about this firsthand. This is on full droop, this wheel. You got a 37 on or 35, so what have you got? And you got the steering wheel and you're going, there's my hands, I can't see my hands. And you're going like this, bang, 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 bang. So all the way to the car, you're with that turning into the bank, the wheel, you're trying to push all the way to the car via this arm, because that's what you're doing. You're turning that, it's pushing that to try and get drive. As it's pushing that, look at the angle it's pushing that box up at. It's pushing up at that angle. Can we see from around here, Betty? Yeah, there you go. You can sort of see it through there. Oh, there you go. That angle. So look at the angle you're pushing against the end of your steering rack, and then all that leverage back to here, and it breaks the steering rack. Now, when it breaks that housing, it spills all the oil everywhere, but apparently the car still drives fine, and the oil pump and the hydraulic power steering pump doesn't fail. It's fine. You get home, a few hundred Ks. I know blokes have driven 300 Ks, got home, replaced the steering rack, hooked it all back up, filled it with oil, and they've still been fine. 2 years later, the pump is still fine. So we know they're pretty robust. But there's just an example of why when you're in ditches, in an old GQ, you would just slam it into the bank. You would be steering all over the place. You'd be going bang, 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 bang to get traction or whatever. On this, because of that rack, and the rack, even if you can put diff drives, you put all the other stuff in you want, that rack still sits up there. So unless you lower the rack the same amount that you lift the car by, that is always going to be at that funny angle. So just something to remember when you're thumping your bloody big 37s into the side of a trench, although I don't think many of us actually do that with a 62, but anyway. Just remember that's what's pushing against, and if it breaks your rack, no one wants a broken rack, let's face it. We've all got to maintain our racks. So there you go. I wish it was this side, that would have been easy to get to. Anyway, all good, there's my rant for the day. Don't know how to get that clip back on, but if you've got a wobble in the front, when you're doing your checks underneath, hard thing is when there's weight on the car, you'd never pick that. When there's weight on that wheel, you'd never move it. You really need to get under there. In this case, what you would, even with the car sitting there, you'd still be able to wobble that side to side and go, hey, something's wrong here. So that's just another check to do. Now, I know no one's had this rack out since this car was new, because I've had it since new. So that's just another little thing to watch in a 62. Righto, there you go. That's today's rant. Yeah, righto. Thread looks okay, thank God. Anyway, I'm going to clean it up now. Clean the end of this thread. and put it all back together. And I've got a spare rack end, which I can't see myself using that for years. I've got original rack ends in cars from 25 years old, so I can't see that being a problem. But anyway, there you go. Interesting. Now that I've got that, I'll just put the steering lock on right. Now, funny enough, when it's drooped that far, because that's not even connected, so that's why it doesn't look like it's turning right. That's how far the steering rack comes out the end of the rack housing. Have a look at that. So that's a fair way out. So you imagine the angle of the steering arm to that, pushing up against that, all that leverage against this end. So I don't know where they actually brake. I'm going to guess they brake through here, but I don't actually know. But I think it's DMW and maybe some other people actually make a housing, like a housing stiffener, if you like. Don't know which end actually brakes, whether it's that end or that end. Anyway, they make a bit of a housing stiffener for them. So anyway, just something to keep in mind when you're being silly. Okay. Got some Loctite 609 here. I'll whack that on there, push it back in. I was hoping I'd get out far enough I could have some spanners on it, but it's a bit of a weird size. It's like bloody 42.5 mil or something. I'll see what I can work out. Little modification to the shifter. Now it goes way past where it's meant to. Too easy. Here at Dodgy Brothers Toolmakers, the beauty of Tool Pro, this is pretty dodgy, is I can make myself a pair of right-angled nips. Oh, see if that works, eh? Perfect. Got it did. Bit of a mission. So I had to look up through here and just use a pair of moulder grips to get it started and then a pair of side cutters to squish it in, but it's looking good. I'm sure it's done pretty if it's out, but it's not out, so I'll keep an eye on it, see how it goes.